but let's start. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Our name is Ning Yuan and Shanming Shi. We are the parents of a 2022 illustration student. We are also the co-chair of the Families Leadership Council International Committee. This is the second in a new series of webinars for international families. We will present throughout the year to keep you up to date on what your student is experiencing at RISD. The content for this webinar will focus on internship and the movements of transition coming soon, like end of the semester, holiday breaks, and our winter session. This presentation is being recorded, so it will be later translated into Chinese. We will let you know via email when the English and Chinese version are available, and we'll post a link to on the website. Before we get started, let me just a few housekeeping tips. You will not be able to use the chat during the event, but please keep an eye out for additional information and the links we may post there during the presentation. We have planned the program to allow time for your questions, which we will ask that you submit with the Q&A feature. We will do our best to answer them all, if possible, before the end of the hour. And we may extend a few minutes beyond the hour if there is any additional questions. Well, and now we'd like to introduce Susan Anderson and Karen Harris from the RISD Career Center, who support students in their searches for internships. Karen and Susan, here you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Harris, and this is Susan Anderson. We're going to present to you tonight a presentation. So I'm going to let Susan kick it off while I open the presentation and share my screen. Okay.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome. Karen and I are happy to talk with you this evening, and as Shanming Shi said, would be glad to answer your questions at the end of the presentation this evening if you have any. So Karen and I are going to give you kind of an overview of the Career Center and how we work with students with regard to internships, and then some of the kind of finer points around what students need to do to begin to seek an internship, and then how to register an internship and other related matters. So with that said, we'll move right into it. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is an image of our homepage of the Career Center website, which is careercenter.risd.edu. And just to give you kind of a summary of the things that we offer to your students, they can make appointments with us for individual career advising. We also do drop-in advising. So if students are short on time, they can stop by the Career Center just for a 15-minute kind of quick question type of advisement. We also offer career programs throughout the year, and we email students about those programs all the time so that they are aware of them and can take full advantage of them. We also, as staff, have liaison roles with the academic departments. So all of the advisors in the office are meeting with academic departments and presenting career programs actually within the departments, which is great. It makes it easy for students to access the information that way. We also host a job and internship board. So companies and organizations that would like to hire RISD talent can post their positions through Artworks, which is managed by our office. And then we share that out with students. We also do a lot of internship guidance. That's really one of Karen's primary roles in the office, and she'll talk a bit about that in a minute. We also assist students with their interest in grants and residencies and fellowships. So not just jobs and internships, but other kinds of career activities that are focused around those kinds of opportunities. And then we have a whole host of online resources that students can take advantage of through the Career Center website. So things that are really kind of essentials. We have resume and cover letter examples, and workshops and programs that we've hosted in the past that we've recorded. So we have career tutorials that relate to resume and cover letter writing. We also have tutorials that focus on demo reels and portfolios, on networking, interviewing, and all the other kind of career related matters that are listed here. So we'll go to the next slide. A couple of the most probably important things for tonight are that you know that we have a parents page at the Career Center. This is our staff sort of joyfully celebrating the end of a very big event that we host every spring, which is the Design Portfolio Review. That's another one of the career programs that we do, where there are 120 or so companies that will participate in the event to meet with students for 15-minute portfolio reviews. So when your students are juniors, seniors, or maybe graduate students in the future, they're welcome to attend this event. And it was hosted remotely last year, and we will be doing that again this year due to concerns around still the pandemic. But nonetheless, please visit the parents page, again, careercenter.risd.edu /parents, and there's great information for you there. So moving right along.
So
Turn to Karen.
thank you all for being here. I'm really happy that we have this chance to actually talk to you all from wherever you are in the world. As the internship manager here at RISD and career advisor, I'm always excited to speak about internships because it's just a wonderful activity. And it's amazing because it's the chance for a student to go out and experience what they've actually learned. So to have hands-on experience of what they've actually been studying in class. So we in the Career Center really understand the value and feel that it's really important for students to do internships if they can do it, or if they want to. So we actually have a lot of programs that we create around internships, and what we're going to do is show you some of the timing around that. So we know right now students are preparing for Wintersession internship. That's a very popular time, and also the summertime is a popular time for internships. So we're actually, working with students, helping them to find that, and also they are registering those internships at the moment. So when we kick off our fall semester, it starts out with our internship stories, where students go out and talk about, we have a panel of students and they talk about what they've done during the summer, and they try to inspire other students about what they've done and what they've learned. So we feel that's a great way to begin the year. That program is actually open to first-year students as well as everyone else. So a first-year student is able to actually hear a little bit about this kind of stories that are happening. So we do individual advising, and we also have drop-in hours about internships as well. And after the internship story, we do the Internship Connect. And this year we had a great year. We had over 70 companies, which is 500 students and 1,000 interviews, and very excited students sitting on Zoom from wherever they are and enjoying the time. And in the fall and spring semester, we usually visit departments and we do departmental presentations, as Susan had mentioned. And we try to target those presentations for the different disciplines. So if you're a sculptor, it's a different one. If you're a graphic design, it's a different presentation. And also one of the things that I do as well is I do go through the different departments to talk about how to register your internship and how to have a great experience as well. So this page is a really good page for you to know. We'll put the link in the chat in a little while, but this is the student information page about internships. So it basically will talk about why an internship is great, how to register your internship, when to do an internship, what are the guidelines. And right now there are some guidelines around remote internships. So it will give you some information about that. It'll talk about eligibility for internships. It'll even talk about the CPT process, which I'm sure Kate will cover a little bit. We also have another page as well for employers, because it's a different side of thinking about an internship. So for employer, one side is talking about the rules about RISD's rules about internship and RISD's internship agreement, and what kind of criteria an employer would need to have if they're hiring a student. Like we really believe in the mentorship of an employer to a student. So it does give you that kind of information. But as parents, you may know of people that want to hire RISD interns from overseas. And we actually have a link here where they can post their jobs. And also as parents, if you want to hire an intern too, if you have a company, you can also do that as well on the employer information page as well. You can register, or if you know of a job or an internship, you can also post it on Artworks as well. So moving along, things that you can remind your students about is the deadline. You know, we have a deadline calendar that's up on our site under the student info section that you can look at. And as you can see here, the November 30th is the deadline for winter session. And winter session is 5 weeks term. And then the summer, of course, most popular time is about 12 weeks. And then all of the students will register their internship on Artworks. So this calendar will give you an idea of when to start and what's needed for your internship as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to Susan to talk about support.
So as Karen is mentioning, the variety of things related to internships, from the programs that we offer to the registration process that students need to participate in to earn academic credit for their internship, and a variety of other things. We do Monday emails to students every Monday that remind them of all of these, these things and give them insight on what's up and coming. So hopefully your student is never at a loss for getting that type of information. We generally say to students, open it, just glance at it. If there's nothing relevant, get rid of it, you just throw it away, but check every week. So it's a primary source of communication that we use. We also will, in the coming weeks, have employer presentations and live webinars. And some of those that we've hosted in the recent past were with companies like Tesla and Converse and Urban, which is a large clothing brand, Cartoon Network, Disney, and others. So some of the larger companies may not have the ability to participate in our program, so we invite them to do these other more specialized one-time webinars that students can participate in and learn a lot from and understand what's required for applying to internships with those companies that way. We also do job and internship e-blasts and communicate via our social media about any really terrific opportunities that happen to be up and coming that we don't want them to miss. So go on, Kara. Thank you. So I think just finally, we would say to you and to encourage your students that one of the best things they can do is to meet with us, just to talk about what their questions are. I think sometimes students feel like they need to have a career to come to the Career Center. And we always say that's great if you do, but even more reason if you're unsure or don't really have a sense or have lots of questions about what you should do next. There's no question that isn't a great question. So please do encourage your students. And again, careercenter.risd.edu, meet with us right on our homepage. They can select that and choose an appointment time that works for them or come for a drop-in advising. So hopefully that's been helpful and informative. And as I said earlier, we're happy to answer questions that you might have at the conclusion. And I'm going to kick it over to Kate to take the next few minutes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen and Susan. So I just will kind of follow up a little bit on some of the internship process because we work so closely with the Career Center, and then I'm going to hand it over to Johnny after that. So we once a student goes through and registers their internship in Artworks, the international students. By the way, I'm Kate Sacco, the Director of International Student Services. We work with the Career Center once a student registers their internships. That can be inside the United States or outside of the United States. We work with them to make sure that they have the off-campus work authorization that they need if they are a student on the F1 student visa. So Many of our international students do hold the student visa, which is the F1, and the requirement, they can work on campus with no kind of special work authorization, but in order to work off campus, they need to have a notation on their immigration form I-20. So we work with the Career Center to make sure that everything is okay on the RISD side and that their department says yes and their employer says yes. And then we will update their I-20 form so that they can work legally in the United States. They do not need this type of update on their I-20 if they are working outside of the United States. But we still do help facilitate the process and approve it just because they're still an international student. So that's kind of how we, like I said, we host programs throughout the year with the Career Center, not only on internships, but on work after graduation, and even with an immigration attorney if a student chooses to explore those options beyond that. So we love working with our Career Center buddies. I'm gonna, before I get into the international travel, I'm gonna just hand it over to Johnny and see and have him introduce himself.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to see all the lovely parents here on the webinar today. So my name is Johnny, and I'm currently a junior or a part of class of 2023 at RISD, majoring in industrial design. And I was born and raised in Shenzhen, China, which is where I consider home. And I'm here to share a little bit about the student perspective of transitioning back to RISD after a year of remote classes or even a gap year, and what some of the processes might look like for international students to apply for an internship in the US. I know this past year has been really difficult for a lot of the international students in terms of having to take remote classes or like putting their college degree on pause due to travel restrictions in their respective countries and just other factors related to COVID. So for my case, I decided to take a gap year last year since I knew a lot of the classes my department offered were either remote or hybrid. And to me, I value the hands-on aspect of my major, like modeling, utilizing the wood shop, metal shop. So flying all the way to the States just seemed too risky, especially when I knew that classes weren't going to be in person. And being able to come back to RISD this year physically, to be with my friends, my peers, faculty members, and just being able to return to the same classroom environments and to be back with a similar curriculum, I feel very lucky, which also brings me to my next point, transitioning. So I spent my gap year in China doing independent studies, interning and finding part-time jobs at different places. And by the end of the year, I was getting very accustomed to my life in China. And that was right before I had to transition back to the States for school. So that process of transitioning and like readapting to this lifestyle, I'm sure is like shared across other international students that also spend their time at home last year, either for remote classes or taking a gap year. And now that they're coming back on campus this fall, we had to sort of prepare ourselves for not only RISD's rigorous curriculum, but also possibly employment on and off campus and internship applications and so on. So I'll briefly talk about what it's like to be employed for an on-campus position at RISD. So there are many different on-campus work studies at RISD that students can apply for. Earlier this fall, I applied to be an orientation leader, which counts as a paid student position. And as an international student working in the US, I needed to apply for a social security number and then complete Form I-9 in order to be eligible for my position. So the social security application was actually really simple. I just sent out a few documents, including the job letter to OISS, which stands for Office of International Student Services, which OISS then approved and issued a social security letter for me to bring to my appointment at the local Social Security Administration. And after everything was approved, all I had to do was completing the I-9 form at the Student Employment Office, and then I was employed and also eligible to apply for other on-campus positions at RISD. Yeah, so that's for on-campus employment. And since most international students will be staying in the States for the coming 2 semesters and some possibly even summer, I know a lot of us are already looking for internship opportunities in the States. So there are usually the Internship Connect events happening in late October, which has just passed. And then it's this opportunity where students got to participate and talk with like hiring managers, designers, and other professionals in fields and ask questions about applying for internships and the skill sets they'll be able to gain from these opportunities. And international students who are looking for to apply for an internship in the States will apply for them through our works on Career Center website. Additionally, they also need to apply for CPT, which stands for Curricular Practical Training through the Office of International Student Services before being officially employed for their internship. I'm still currently building my portfolio and website, so these are my next steps, and as are a lot of other international students' next steps towards getting an internship in the States, either from winter session, spring semester, or summer 2022. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Johnny. That's a great job. I think I might have to watch out because Career Center is going to hijack you. So I want to just get in a little bit. I'm going to shift gears a little and start talking about where we are in the semester right now. In addition to students starting to think about internships and what's coming for winter session, spring and summer in that realm, they're also finishing up the semester and getting ready to hopefully get a break. And Thanksgiving break is coming, and so is winter break. And finals are early December. So the last day of classes is December 14th. So to talk a little bit about for the students who might go home or go back to their home country, sometimes there can be a different kind of transition that happens, that they come into the United States and there's a whole transition there. And then they may not even realize some of the changes that they're going through. And Johnny, I'm going to ask you to speak about this if you feel comfortable. But they're going through a lot, not only just socially trying to make new community, make new friends, linguistically in some cases, trying to adjust to speaking English every day can be quite exhausting. As someone who's studied outside of the US and had to use a language that was not my native language every single day, that first month or two, you get really tired. And then so kind of adjusting to the food, and your stomach's all adjusting and all the adjustments. And then it's kind of like once you get adjusted and then you go back, go home, and you get to kind of see how much you've changed. And there's kind of a whole new set of adjustments that are happening, and kind of switching to be like shifting code shifting, it's called, a little bit of where am I, how have I changed, what does this mean in my familiar space. And Johnny, I don't know if you want to add anything about your experience.
Oh yeah, sure. So I guess like transitioning back to the US after an entire gap year was kind of difficult because like you spoke about, like language wise, and just like the food choices that are offered like in the United States, I'm sure are very different compared to those of like international, like the foods that international students are accustomed to eating. And then some of the ways that I was able to sort of like reacclimate to my life in the United States was by I guess just like hanging out with different people, that it's just like knowing that there's this like international student community and a support, like a back support system to sort of support us with our education, and knowing that this is a very welcoming community, and that everyone is like very diverse and unique, and your experience of being an international student is never alone. There are other people across the campus sharing the same, stories, the same backgrounds as you. I feel like that helped a lot in getting back to school. Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, and if you do get to see your student over winter break, some things that are helpful, or that were helpful in my experience, were asking them to see pictures of their life here, because you kind of feel like you got taken out of your familiar place, put in this new place, getting used to that, and then you go back to the familiar and you have new friends and you have places you may have visited or experiences that some people in your familiar environment may not have been part of, maybe verbally, but to actually see pictures and listen to the things that your student has experienced over the fall semester goes a really long way, I think, to make that connection and to show that both communities, both at RISD and in their home, are supporting them in the different ways that they need it as they kind of grow into their own, as we say. So to talk a little bit more on like the logistics side of the winter break and some of the messaging that the students, so we have just had town halls with the faculty, staff, and students yesterday and today to talk about winter session in spring. And one of the things that we discussed was travel and upcoming travel and logistics around housing and dining and what will happen over the next couple of months. So I'm gonna share my screen just for my one slide. So excuse for a moment here. Can everyone see my slide? Okay. We'll pick up, there we go. All right, so we are not recommending travel at this time. That doesn't mean that students, and you may want your student to travel, but we're erring on the side of caution just because there's still so much up in the air with the global pandemic ongoing, and anything while a student is outside of the United States, things could change that would prohibit them from coming back into the United States. So this is a very cautious recommendation. And I'm happy to answer any questions specifically that people may have about that. Travel within the United States is permitted, but just making sure you have your student check with airline requirements and that they're up to date on those protocols. If a student does decide to travel, we strongly recommend that they check obviously the vaccination and testing requirements of both the countries they'll be traveling to and from. They need to get their Form I-20 signed by the International Student Services Office on page 2, and that's a requirement always. They have to do that once a year to be eligible to be able, to re-enter the United States. That's a Homeland Security requirement. And finally, if they do need to renew their visa if they're traveling outside of the United States, they should contact my office directly, just because the timing of that and visa appointments in some countries are still quite delayed. So we just want to make sure we know that they're traveling so that we can kind of be on call should something come up. Just in general, this is true always as well, but we do still have a few classes that are remote at RISD. And so I just reminding you to remind your student that they have to be enrolled in at least 3 credits during the winter session term and 12 credits during the spring term. And the credits should be in person or hybrid unless they've received a special permission from the remote at risd.edu process or through an internship experience. And my last little point is that the International Student Services Office will be closed during winter break, but people can contact the Public Safety Office at any time, and the public safety officers can get in touch with an advisor. So more details on international travel are on our website, which I will put in the chat, but also happy to answer any questions people might have. And I think that might be all that I have. Anu?
Hi, everyone. My name is Anu Masterson. I am Director of Operations and Student Affairs. I'm primarily here to mostly answer your questions. And we did share this again, as Kate said, in a faculty, student, staff, and families town hall earlier today, but that can be tough for international families. So I'm going to reshare just some of the logistics with winter break and closing. So let me quickly share my screen. And I think, can you see my screen? Okay, great, thank you. So last day of fall semester, like Kate said, is December 14th, and residence halls close on the 15th, and so do dining halls. Studios and workshops will remain open, and students do have the opportunity to request to stay on campus because we know travel can be challenging during this time. There is a fee associated with it, but if there are financial challenges, please email housing at risd.edu so they can work through the logistics of that. Classes will start again on January 6th, but residence halls open on the 3rd. That is really to allow students some extra time to get settled in before classes are going to start. You don't have to be there on the 3rd, but you, again, might want to come in a couple of days earlier just to settle in, and you never know with New England and weather during that time either. We will do some arrival testing, and it will actually last the first 2 weeks of January, primarily because, again, some students might come in a little bit later depending on flight availability and what have you. And from what Kate said a little bit earlier about not encouraging travel for international students just because we don't know anything about quarantine requirements in the country students may be traveling to, we do acknowledge that dining halls will be closed, which can be challenging for students if they don't have a kitchen in their on-campus room. So a group of us within Student Affairs are working on some specific winter break programming for students and how we can support them in whether that's getting groceries or having food delivery or what have you. We do also, certainly want our dining hall staff to get a break, but also be able to clean and get ready for winter session. So we're going to try to find that balance between making sure we're supporting our students and our staff. And with that, we have also today shared a winter intent form with students. This is for both on and off campus students, and we're asking everybody to share what their winter break plans are, so we're able to know how many students will be in the area that will be needing support, resources, programming, and what have you. So please encourage your students to complete that form. It is required. So we're hoping they all do it by December 1st. So again, that will help us with some planning for what and how we can best support our students. So I'll be here for Q&A, but I think that is all I have. I believe, Chris, it's back to you.
Back to me. Well, thanks, everyone. My name is Chris Hartley. I am an alumni and family relations officer for senior alumni and family relations officer for international engagement. Lots of words there. Thanks, everyone, for sharing this information on a number of subjects. It's a lot to take in, I think. I don't know if we have any questions. And feel free to go ahead and post them, type them in if you've got anything that you would like us to answer. We don't have any questions here right now. I think that I'd like to hear, I guess maybe Anu, can you talk a little bit more while we just hold on for a minute and see if there are any questions? But what sort of options are there for students who are going to be here over the winter break I know you said that you were planning some social activities, but I wonder what else there is that the students can
we're
with their time.
Yeah, we're compiling a couple of different lists. And again, it'll, depend on how many students are here, but some of the activities that are happening just within Providence. So students can do those on their own. There are a lot of options with the holiday. So just a list of here are some things that you can do on your own, and go ahead. In Providence or Rhode Island, students do have access to the Rhode Island bus, the public transportation with their RISD card. So again, we'll compile that list as one of the things. And then again, depending on the number of students that are here, we're thinking about everything from just some programming where they can come and pick up a Build-A-Bear type thing, or meet each other that are here, all the way to possibly having some shuttles to the grocery store and local cultural markets, so that students can go get some groceries together, and that could be a daily thing. It all kind of depends on how many students are here. And then maybe even do some, food deliveries from local restaurants that the students like and get to enjoy during their break time. So anything we can think about in terms of relaxing for students, but a lot of it, again, depends on, what part of campus, if they have access to a kitchen and they can actually use the groceries, or do we need to do food delivery if they're first-year students and don't have a kitchen in their room. So very important for them to fill out that winter intent form, so we can figure out what is the best way to provide programming, resources, list, and all the things during the break.
Thanks. And I know that I know you said something about studios being open. Are they open all through the winter break, or?
No, they're not. They're open till the 23rd from
Okay.
7 a.m. to 2 a.m. So students will have access to that. They are also open 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. through Thanksgiving break, which is next Wednesday through Sunday. So students that are not traveling home will have access to your academic spaces. From December 24th through January 3rd, academic spaces will close for a deep cleaning. And that kind of gives facilities an opportunity, but also, again, gives our custodial staff a break from having to come in every day. Yeah.
Well, and it perhaps forces some students to rest.
Yeah, we want them to take a break.
as
We want them to
well.
do other things. We want them to go see Providence and walk around and enjoy
Ice skating.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
One thing
Yeah.
actually is that we talk about international travel, but they can potentially travel nearby cities like Boston or New York City. And US is actually, I mean, the pandemic, it's at least the number coming down quite significantly, and the vaccine are coming out. So we I'm in New York City. As long as you have vaccine, shots, and then life is pretty much normal. You take a mask and go. Right now the city is piled with people, so it's a very active and very. We try to come from very down point and come to a life, right? So this is a holiday season. I think it's fine. Of course, you can take cautious measures about this, traveling, protect yourself, all that safety. But I think with group of friends or something, you can definitely explore life within this country. It's not too far away. It's all accessible. Another thing is actually, I think I always want to emphasize this. Providence is a very nice little town. That's the campus has a lot of good restaurants and a lot of things to enjoy. I encourage. It's not like a remote place, and people leave and then this come down. This is a good place, and I think your students will be able to enjoy actively during this time. That's what
I would agree with that. Providence is really a big town than a city, but you can easily make your way to New York City or Boston if you are wanting to, and the Amtrak station is pretty close by. And again, if we have a pretty decent group of students, we may try to see if we can coordinate that if students have an interest in, going a little bit further from Providence. It also just becomes challenging to plan with the weather and with possibly COVID, but I think at this point, again, our students are 98% plus vaccinated. So not positive, vaccinated. It's not a good one. But our vaccination rate is high. Our students are very cautious. We've had a very low positivity rate in the semester. So we want to encourage continuing to build community because we know the students have missed it. We certainly have missed it in the course of the last year, and to build upon what we have already learned during the COVID times to keep this virtual presence as well as an in-person presence together. And winter break is a good time for students to unplug from their studio life and participate in just what is Providence. And maybe Johnny can speak to that, but students don't explore Providence as much as they should, probably because of a lot of the studio work and academic work that they all do just during the semester.
There is a question now.
Yep.
You want?
Go ahead.
Yes, the question is, are students able to do an internship and a class during winter session? The answer is yes. But it is intense depending on the winter session class that you choose. And your winter session internship would have to be remote, meaning that you might be here in Providence and then you'll be doing your work over the computer, or if it's in Boston, or local, then it would work with a class. But I mean, I guess you could be overseas and do an online class or RISD class as well. So the answer is completely yes, you can do both as long as you can manage it. And I know Kate's gonna say something about making sure.
I was just going to mention that first. I don't know if there's any parents of first year students, and did you mention that first year students can't do?
Yes, thank you for that.
First year students are not eligible to participate in internships because they're not yet connected to a department. So I just want to clarify for any first year students, they cannot do an internship this year. They can do one next year when they're in their major.
Yes.
I would just add to this too that the deadline to register an internship for winter session is November 30th. So that date is coming up very quickly. And if you have a student that is really seriously thinking about an internship but does not have one yet, I would just say direct them to the Career Center so we can help guide them through the next steps to make sure that they get the offer for the internship and they can register it on time. So there is a little bit of a time crunch right now because of that deadline. So we wouldn't want a student to, be terribly stressed or, anxious about making this all happen. And again, the conversation about how to do this would ease that concern, I think, a lot for a student. So just to keep in mind, there is this deadline out there for winter session too that they would have to be complying with.
Lots of deadlines coming up.
You can tell that I've worked at the Career Center a lot. Karen can read my facial expression.
I know.
Yeah, along that line, actually, I was just thinking about talking about first year students not eligible for internship. But my own thought was that actually I would encourage your students talk to Career Center people as early as they can. They're very, very nice people, very helpful. Aside from resume and understand your to try to help you from understand your career or what do you want to do. I mean, the one thing we realized in the last few years with these teachers and students is that we need more communication, right? The student need to, U.S. at least the college students are fully grown adults. They have to do something, but I know that different place has different tradition or something. But we definitely encourage students try to talk to the Career Center as early as possible. You will learn a lot. They are very, very helpful on many things. The thing is, RISD has a lot of resources, but not everything have been, utilized. I mean, if your students talk to the right person, find the right department, you will definitely learn a lot and will get a lot of help from them.
That's great. We do have another question here. Is an online course for winter session possible? Are there any being offered? I don't know if anyone, does anybody know that answer?
Yeah, there's like 2% classes.
So not very many.
Yeah, there aren't many options, but that is an option if, well, Anu, do you want to step in? I don't want to go too much down the rabbit hole because the likelihood of a first year student doing an online course is very low.
Yeah, so I would ask the student to look through the courses, and I will see if I can find the link where you are able to view. Used to be on the COVID site for the modalities for winter session and spring, so I can plug that into the chat. But when the students go in to register for courses, they should be able to see if it's a in-person, hybrid, or a fully online. But again, as a first year student, I can say for first year students, there are about 10 students that were remote for fall semester that I met with this morning during their class time who are planning to return to campus come to campus for the first time for winter session. So very few online courses in general. And I'll see if I can find that link.
Great. Thank you. Anu, is the mailroom open? I think that would be important.
That's a great question. I believe it is. I would think the hours are shifted a little bit.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if I have the answer to that readily available either. So let me look for that too.
All right, thank you. Karen and Susan, if a student finds their own internship, why go through your office, I guess is the question.
Well, I would say that if it's an international student, they have no choice. But we're laughing because, we want them to obviously register their internship. They have to do that for academic credit. They have to have CPT, as Kate mentioned and Johnny mentioned, to be able to legally, have the correct visa to work in the US. So it's a little unavoidable. And I think they find out kind of after the fact sometimes, and we certainly, are welcoming of students who are in that position where they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, what should I do, So we really have had many conversations because students just didn't realize, or they, overlooked it and then realized that there would be a problem. And, suddenly we're, kind of in the midst, Karen in particular, is in the midst of trying to, manage the details for them so that they're not in violation of their visa or anything like that.
But if they are international students, and for example, they are from China, but they found an internship in London, they can still do an internship like that. And they can do it without registering. It's a US law, it's only based on if they're working in the US.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we still ask them to register those internships because it helps Kate to know where they are, what country they're in. So then when she gets their visa information to come back to school, she actually knows what has happened. So we still encourage students to register.
Well, and part of it is to know where they are, just to jump in. And part of it is because of that enrollment. Sorry, I don't know, my computer's dinging. Part of it is that enrollment requirement. So students must be enrolled full-time during all required terms in order to maintain their immigration status. So if a student is, for example, outside of the United States during winter session, doing an internship for 3 credits, we need to know that so that we can confirm their enrollment, but also make sure that they get their I-20 signed so they can get back into the United States. So
Very
And
important.
yeah, it's all about the physical location, as Karen and Susan mentioned. We've had some students do an internship in their home country for a US-based country. And while that has tax implications, it does not have any immigration implications.
Gotcha. We do have one more question, and I think then that will be our last one. When does a student usually start to do internships?
When do they start to do it? We had mentioned that the first summer after their sophomore year is the best time to start looking
Okay.
for an internship and doing an internship. That would mean that they would have 1 year of their major. And so then if they want an internship in graphic design, at least they understand what typography is all about.
Yep.
So, that's the best time to start. But if the question is when's the best time to look for an internship for the summer, we always tell students starting in January. Winter session's a great time if you're a sophomore, to start looking for your internship, or a junior or a senior, or going into your senior year, junior going senior year, because once you're graduating, you can't do an internship because you're finishing school. But we also have a lot of grants that, like the Meharem Fellowship, that students can actually apply to when they're seniors, and it's actually creating your own internship, and that's a funded internship through the Career Center. That's something, if somebody is a senior and they want to come to us and talk to us about that, we can give them some information about that. You have anything else to add, Susan?
I think you got it.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we're looking at the 1 hour mark. Any closing thoughts that anybody else, any of the group wants to share before we say goodbye? I guess we're done then.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us.
All
Thank
right.
you,
Yep.
everyone.
Have a great
Sure.
evening, morning, wherever you are.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.